What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be the first album to review to begin the discography from one of my very favourite metal bands of all time, Mastodon. And I know I have decided to begin the discography a little late, but I have been very much planning to review the Mastodon discography from the start to the finish, in the anticipation of their new album, and I'm going to be reviewing the band's debut album entitled Remission. Now, Remission was released to Relapse Records on the 28th of May 2002, and this album runs at more than 50 minutes, and for a debut album, this is awesome. This is one of those major big debut albums for one of the newer modern sounding metal bands, that they start to present to us for the first time what they really would become later on in the band's career. And this album is, without any shadow of a doubt, one of the most heaviest metal albums for a debut that I had ever listened to. This was Mastodon's heaviest album in their discography, and as they would later on build and incorporate some more variation with tons of progressive and different set of directions on later albums to come. And I think that this album is absolutely one of the strongest metal debut albums into the huge new beginning of what Mastodon would become, to get a lot of the massive attention and the great acclaim that they truly deserve. This album, for the tones to the amount of songwriting and the very awesome sound of the band here, this is definitely one of those albums that needs to be checked out. There's just so much arrangements of the sound to the songwriting, and the beginning of hearing Mastodon reaching a lot of the awesome new highs. The first track on the album, Crusher Destroyer, opens with a sample from Jurassic Park, the sound of the T-Rex, but right after that, this song is a manic song with a wicked and gripping sound of aggressive riffs and blasting drumming that was so crafty. And as the music goes, this packs in so much of a groove, and the action was powerful with madness all over the music. An immense number to start the album. The track and only single to be released of the album, March of the Fire Ants. This song opens with a big intro, a brilliant low-tuned booming tone, and the drums to begin and march, the intro. It presents a well-technical mark with brilliant riffs, and the sound of the driving drumming and various beats. The vocals were bringing a wild and grunty mode of distortion, with a very strong bridge section involving a lot of melody, while the drums go wild with Brand's various fills. This is a monster of a song. That's one of my favourites, and it was versatile because of the way it was written all the way through, and an absolute classic of a song. The next song of the record, Where Strides the Behemoth. This song opens a brutal as heck opener, and the violent mood, fast mid-tempo sections to bring the song a lot of maddening belter brutality. It's a fantastic song with one of the best arrangements, and again, wild drumming, as it was a favourite for me, as well as March of the Fire Ants. This is definitely one of the highlights on the album. Workhorse. This track is another incredible song. Mad music with some very aggressive and selection of blazing riffs. The drumming was filling so much technicality and variety with its crushing atmosphere I do love the twin guitar harmony section later on in the track while the aggression continues with some of the instrumentation that perfectly matches itself. Addictive and incredible mark of Mastodon's mark of instrumentation. Then we go to one of my other favorites, if not maybe my favorite number of the album, of Trainwreck. Opening sounds of hearing the train station and the audio of people with a bit of an ambience to it, and then the weary introduction begins. The guitar variation of licks and the drumming that builds the anticipation perfectly, and the whole sound of the music begins massively with a set of destroying riffs, and the drumming was amazing and so direct. The vocals as well with this song were filling up with a mood and was adding the music so much more menace and intensity. And for me, it's another one of the absolute highlights of the album. And in terms of the very adventurous sound of instrumentation parts, like the track of Ole Nessie, which is another fantastic track because it sounds wonderful from the guitar harmonics and the tapping. It embraces itself with a lot of technical drumming and drives the atmosphere because it sounds so glorious, while the blazing, awesome music pops in at the same time. It provides something much more simple and effective with more of a musical arrangement. It brings so much punch to it at the same time, while the vocals were wild and howling to increase so much tension. There are some other incredible parts of the sound of the band here, like onto the track of Trampled Under Hoof. This track was immense. It was chaotic from the brutal introduction, and again, the modes of being so aggressive delivers with a huge mark of power, an amazing sound of the musicianship. It was just all wicked, very slick, and the musicianship is also another one of the brilliant things about this album. Everyone with this album, from each bandmate, sound absolutely slick and very tight with a lot of the chaos and the whole amazing vibe and atmosphere that Mastodon has wonderfully decided to write and proceed with so much of the clever amount of these progressive and vicious, dark, sludgy riffs. And also another brilliant example of the sound of the band is on the track of Mother Puncher, an ascending mark on amazing kicks. The tone was bringing so much of the sound of Mastodon. There are moments on the album where riffs, like onto this track, that sound very groovy, and it brings so much presentation and the versatility. Elephant Man to finalize the album. This is where we hear Mastodon instrumentally to be sounding absolutely wonderful. Instrumentally, this is more or less on a repetitive structure, but what I love about the track, this does ascend so much more and incorporate a brilliant guitar solo, and it was just such a colourful and rich sound from the guitar's awesome distortion, an amazing mark of instrumentation, and that's where you would hear Mastodon become even more versatile and explorative later on, with some more different influences to build the sound of the band so much more. The production of the album was just absolutely incredible. I love the sound of the grunty, violent, and just distorted as heck guitar sound. The drums sound fantastic, and as with the vocals from Troy and Brent, both of these men sounded awesome on here. The tone of the distorted vocals was incredible, and as well with Kelleher's very precise rhythm guitar sections and Brent's lead guitars. Brand's drumming was out of this world on this album from the start to the finish, and for a debut from Mastodon, this was absolutely awesome of an album. So that's all I would like to say for Remission by Mastodon. And I am curious to know what you personally think of this album in the comments down below. The more I listen to this album, the more the very addictive and the massive amount of replayable feelings I have when I listen to these tracks. This is more or less a very massive grower for me, as it then became one of my favourite Mastodon albums in their catalogue of music. So I'm going to give this album, Remission by Mastodon, a very high 9 out of 10. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.